Hi, I'm Dan and welcome to Philosophy, Ethics and Religion at Huddersfield New College. So, what is philosophy, ethics and religion? Well, it's a linear A-level, which means you will study for 2 years and then sit a final exam in each of the 3 units. And those units are Buddhism, where we'll look at the complete religion, including the really deep philosophies of, for example, shunyata, the idea of all things being interdependent, and also the real basic knowledge as well, such as Buddha's life story and how it all began. So you don't need to have any background whatsoever in Buddhism. Secondly, we will look at the philosophy of religion, which asks some really big questions of life. Where did everything come from? Is there such a thing as a God? As well as elements such as the philosophy of language. Do words actually have intrinsic meaning? And finally, we will look at ethics. The ideas of morality and what is right and what is wrong, and how we actually come to those decisions. And that's what we're going to look at today in this taster lesson. So, this is the traditional trolley problem of utilitarianism. And if you watch The Good Place, you may have seen this already. Now, this is a thought game, and it does have some pretty precise rules. The first rule is you're not allowed to break the rules. So in this case, this is you. Now, as you can see, the trolley is hurtling down the tracks at a remarkable amount of speed. I mean, it is a Virgin Express train. Now, your choices will be, do you send the trolley down the top track, ending one person's life, or do you send it down the bottom track, killing 5 people? Now remember, there are rules, so you have to make a decision. You are ultimately responsible for whichever track you send it down. So, pause the video now, have a think, and decide which track you're going to send the trolley down. Okay, so, which track did we send it down? Well, if you sent it down the top track, you would be correct. 1 person's life instead of 5. If you sent it down the bottom track, we're going to need to have a conversation. This is utilitarianism. This is the idea that our decisions create the most amount of happiness or pleasure. And I think we can agree that sending it down the bottom track will cause a whole world of pain. So the top track is the correct answer. Simple enough. Okay, let's move on. Reset the game. Now then, let's spice things up. On the top track, we've still just got 1 person, but this 1 person is a toddler. How did he get there? No idea. Evil genius, I think. On the bottom track, we've got 5 elderly pensioners. Let's say around 85 years old. Now, once again, you find yourself in the horrible position of having to decide which track you're going to send the trolley down. Is it going to be the top track and the toddler, or the bottom track and the elderly pensioners? You decide. Okay, so which track did you send the trolley down? Well, if you're over the top track, really? You're gonna kill a toddler? Seems a little bit dark. But if you send it down the bottom track, which I suspect you did, well, hang on a minute. Earlier, you just decided to take 1 life, and now you're deciding to take 5 purely based on age. That might be a problem. So have a think. Why did you send the trolley down the track you chose? For instance, we could argue that this one, it is utilitarian. You're only taking 1 life over 5, the most amount of happiness. However, some of you might argue, quite darkly, that these guys, they've had their life. What have they got left? Might as well get shut. This is a problem with utilitarianism. It opens up a whole ethical quagmire. Which one should we have done? Let's try another one. Restart the game. Now on the top track, let's put the person you love the most in the entire world. Maybe your parents. On the bottom track, let's put 5 toddlers. Now then, pause the game and see what you decide. Okay, so let's see what you chose. Well, if you went for the top one, the person you love most in the world, technically that's correct. Remember, we are deciding upon what causes the most amount of happiness. The bottom track, well, killing 5 toddlers is never a good look. But again, you might have some convincing arguments. For example, when we say the most amount of happiness, to whom do we mean? Your happiness? My happiness? Society's happiness? It's a tricky one. Maybe you decided to save your loved one and kill the toddlers. But then that's 5 entire families who will be suffering the loss of a dear, innocent child. Now, we've put correct and incorrect, but is there really a correct answer to this? Let's try one more, but this time, instead of changing who's on the tracks, let's change you. What if we change it to this guy? Oh dear. Now, what might Adolf Hitler decide when figuring out which track to send the train down? It would all depend who's on the tracks. If we had an Aryan human being on the top track, he would most likely, regardless of who was on the bottom, take it down the 5-person track, resulting in mass death. This person is who decides the most happiness in any situation. Now, what does this tell us about utilitarianism as a method of making ethical decisions? Well, the first thing that this tells us is it isn't a very good method. It is very open to corruption and to abuse and to personal whim. Second, it is actually something you use every single day. Not this dramatically, but in terms of should I go to college or should I not go to college? That's a utilitarian decision. Which one is going to create the most happiness in the long run? And thirdly, it really does bring into doubt the entire idea of a moral good and a moral bad. After all, if you flicked between taking 1 person out and 5 people out and 1 person out and then 5 people out again, your morality is all over the place, suggesting there is no such thing as good or bad. And this is a dangerous place for humans to find themselves in. After all, if there is no right or wrong, why should we test ourselves to do always the right thing? This is a question that we'll certainly look into and at least try to answer when studying ethics in philosophy, ethics and religion. So thank you very much for watching and listening, and if you have any other questions, please refer to our college website. Thank you.